Hello, I did switch to Linux, and here are some of my thoughts. Now, before I switched, I had problems with Windows environment, and that is exactly why I did switch. Now, in order to switch, yeah, I had to do research to find out the distro that actually fit my needs. So actually went online and looked up Ubuntu. Obviously came in first, but I found it too plain, so I decided to go another route. They're actually really good distros out there, so I decided to go with the Debian based. Zorin OS is actually based on Ubuntu, but it's actually really customized, and it's a distro of its own. It looks it's Ubuntu based, but it's actually customized really well. And then it's actually Windows friendly because I'm coming from a Windows operating system. And one of the reasons I actually decided to switch was the main reason was because I wanted to compile my own OSP. OSP stands for Android Open Source Project, which is basically me an environment to and a group of repositories to help you build your own ROM, your own custom ROM, and maintain your device. If your device is running out of support, then you can actually maintain it by yourself by downloading entire repositories and blobs and binaries and compiling it yourself, and maintaining your device. This is actually why I did. Second was that because I'm actually running a second gen Intel chip, Sandy Bridge. Then it's actually Windows takes a toll on my CPU because Windows is not very great with managing CPU. I have no idea. It's actually very heavy, so that is one of the reasons. Those some of the reasons that I actually switched. So I finally settled on Zorin OS, like I've said, which is Ubuntu based and it's Debian based. So now, here are some of the pros of actually using Linux for me. Number one, memory management on Linux has been really, really, really good. When I actually open Linux and I'm not running anything, I have usage of up to below 1 gig of memory usage. It's something you just can't find with Windows. Just by loading Windows into your operating system and all the bloat, you already have probably like 3 gigs that are actually being used on Windows, which is something. Memory is expensive, and up to this point, I'm only running 8 gigs of of RAM. So one of the things, memory management has been great. Number two is CPU management. Uh, CPU isn't under you know isn't as stressed as it was on Windows, which is something I really do like. Number three, let's talk about bloat. Now, Windows install has so much bloat. The first thing I usually try to do is debloat my Windows, but even that doesn't work. So basically, Linux is super bloated. You only get what you want. If you don't want something, you can simply uninstall it. Is probably using terminal. Another thing I appreciate about Linux is all those pesky Windows updates that keep on popping up. Sometimes you're actually really working and then Windows decided to update itself. That is being really stupid. Now, things like that are a bye bye for me. On Linux, we have no such bullshit, so that is one of the things I really do appreciate. Windows is an operating system that is very hard to customize, but when it comes to Linux, you can customize your desktop as much as you want it. You can customize your shell as much as you want. So customization on Linux operating system is actually really great, and it's actually fun doing it. So that is one thing, Linux. And you heard about viruses. Windows operating system is actually prone to a lot of virus. Here we are on Linux. Things like that don't just happen. The virus, we just hear of it from really far. So yeah, something like virus, yikes. Yeah, we don't do that here. So that is those are like some of the pros. Now, one of the cons I actually got with Linux operating system, it's not necessarily a con, but the thing is, productivity packages like Adobe, uh, they don't really care about the Linux user. So I looking Adobe packages on Linux it's a no. I actually thought I could get Adobe on Linux, but no, Adobe packages they don't care. So Adobe packages that actually use a Premiere Pro, Lightroom, or Audition, and then an editor called Wondershare Filmora, which I never did find on Linux. So that means you have to actually find alternatives for those in Linux. So that is just probably I would say a con for that. Now on Linux. Now, switching to another operating system means you want to check out your workflow. Now, do you still maintain the same workflow you had on Windows, or do you have to replace it? Now, for the most part, it was actually okay for me. Like, I swear, like the things that I use on Windows are actually present on Linux. Chrome is my main web browser. I have so much invested in Chrome because I have tabs all over Chrome that they give me easy access menu tabs. So every time I log into Chrome and sync my sync my projects, everything comes back flooding. So that is one reason I could never leave Chrome even if I wanted to. So Chrome exists for Linux and it works fine. I actually think it handles memory better than it does on Windows, so that is one thing I actually appreciate. So, number two, we do know Microsoft offers the best Office experience. Now, when you come to Linux, you do not find Office unless you actually install Wine, which Wine basically allows you to run Windows apps on Linux. And I don't really find a reason why would I want to come to Linux and then still use Windows products. But sometimes you're on Linux and you want to game, so Wine really comes in handy. But I would not. I don't feel like it would be great to install Windows apps on on Linux. It just sounds quirky, especially Word. So uh, I found out, okay, LibreOffice, they work fine. I mean, they're actually fine. They have the basics all sorted out. But I then I just find doing basic typing and spreadsheets, it works perfectly. I use Google Docs. Google Docs works perfectly for for all that spreadsheet and typing experience. So works perfectly for me. So Google Docs. So in terms of typing, handling spreadsheets, and Chrome and browser, I'm actually sorted on Linux. I don't have to look anywhere else. Now let's see. Uh, Media player. VLC is basically my main media player, and moving to Linux, that never did change. VLC works perfect for Linux, and I think probably it works even better. VLC works for Linux, and I didn't have a problem with switching to a new media player. So uh, now when it comes to writing code, now VS Code. Let's talk about VS Code. VS Code has and is probably one of the best, if not the best, you know, text editors out there, and it works perfectly on Linux. I found it easy to use. You know, actually, its performance was actually better on Linux. Actually, probably anything to do with performance works better on my Linux machine. So you'll hear that a lot, but okay. Then something else, Android Studio. Also, this great platform. It works really good on Linux. Way more performance, versatility, and all. And it's okay. I just found it really good. I use Android Studio, or I used Android Studio on Windows, and it takes a lot of time to load. But here on Linux, trust me, trust me, it works really well. And now for anyone Windows, probably you've heard of Intel Download Manager. It's basically it's an app you install, and then anytime you want to download from a browser, it actually grabs that download packet and then accelerates how fast you download it. And most of the time I used it for downloading my YouTube videos. So right now that I'm on Linux, I use an app called ClipGrab to actually download my YouTube videos. ClipGrab is easy. All you have to do is go on the YouTube video you want to actually download, copy the link, paste it on ClipGrab, and just wait for a minute to sync, and then you just download it. And sometimes you want to shoot videos, you want to show people things you're doing on your computer. Yeah, that's where on Windows I used to use an app called Ice Cream Screen Recorder. It really worked well for me, and I loved it. But then now I had to switch over, so I had to look for something else, and apparently it did. The screen recorder I found to actually be useful. It's called Simple Screen Recorder, and like all these are actually open source. You don't pay for them; they're open source. They're out there for you to actually use. So I found it really, really impressive. It's very simple, but yet really effective. Now that is good. Watch ADB services. As a phone enthusiast, I want to do I want to do ADB run devices, ADB shell. I want to be able to manipulate data on my phone using ADB. So ADB is easy to install. Just go terminal ADB, sudo install ADB, and sync all those repositories, download them, and ADB works fine on Linux. Usually works faster and better than it does on Windows, which is okay for me. Then now productivity app, like I said, Adobe Premiere Pro, and then one Chef Limora that I use for editing videos. Now you don't find those on Linux, so you have to get what we call an alternative. Now I did find an alternative. It's not as professional as Adobe, but it definitely gets the job done. It's called Shortcut. Shortcut is an open source video editor. It's very simple, straight to the point. It's a timeline editing app. It's very easy to master. It's generally, familiar. Familiar. I did have to learn about some things, but it didn't take me more than an hour to actually learn almost the entire editing hub, how to get the job done. So Shortcut did the work for me. If there is a better app for Linux for video editing, then I'd like to actually know. Telegram. Telegram is for the developer. Developer. I live on Telegram. When I moved over, I was afraid probably I'd have to not to use Telegram on my smartphone, but I actually find Telegram more useful on desktop because it's just like a big screen, and typing on a keyboard is way faster than typing on my smartphone. So I did. Linux is available for. Telegram is available for Linux, and that is great. There's something about working with the terminal that's just so refreshing. Running apps via terminal. It's just so captivating and shit. So I've been learning a lot of Bash skills. Bash is actually pretty interesting for me, which is really good. The thing about Linux is that you are learning every other time. You want to do something, you go and learn. It's learning. It's not just about clicking and stuff. Tools like HTOP and you get to monitor things in real time on terminal. It's breathtaking, I guess. And basically that's it for my Linux experience. So far Linux has been good. I'm not planning to switch back, though I did dual boot my computer, so that one of the things I still use Windows for is what we call torrenting, downloading large files of data, 50 gigs, 40, 30 gigs. I didn't find a way to do that on Linux, so what I basically do is anytime I'm going to sleep, switch over to Windows, get your torrent, and then as I sleep, my torrent actually downloads. So that is how I've been faring on. So Linux has been really good for me. This past, I've been using it for probably 2.5 weeks now, and I am not complaining. Linux is actually great. If you're a developer, actually you do need to switch. It's actually a really good operating system. So yeah, I hope this actually did help you in case you're planning to switch over. So peace.